7 footballers who are overrated by opponents. And much like the pair of videos on players who are overrated/underrated by their teammates, these 2 next videos too will be judged using the difference in perspective between fans and players. Ex-players, when asked about their toughest opponent, usually draw back on memories of in-game situations. So naturally, this means they're more likely to pick players who went up against them directly and embarrassed them one way or another. For example, a fullback will most likely pick a winger who twisted them up in a game. A centre-back will pick a striker who dominated them physically in a game. A striker will pick a centre-back for similar reasons. A winger may pick a fullback for similar reasons. But for us fans who don't have those memories to draw back on, we instead share a more objective outlook and assess these players' performances over a longer period of time and, yes, indeed see where the math don't math. Let's roll on. Number 7. Didier Drogba. In a list revolving around players who specialize in going up against you and making an impression, it'd be daft to leave out a man who's damn near built a career on this. In fact, if I was 20 years younger and my mum followed a strict routine of dropping me on my head 4 times a day as a baby, I'd probably call him something like a impressions merchant. Cause you see, fact is, Drogba was the master of hurting you in memorable fashion. Cue his thunder strikes, goals in cup finals, dominating presence, or even the fact that my man literally stopped a civil war in his country. That's some memorable shit, I'm sure you'd agree. But honestly, despite all that, stopping Drogba wasn't exactly a rare occurrence by any means. You see, Drogs loved the physical battle. However, when defenders were smart enough to back off him and not give him the privilege of contact, not like that you dirty sod, Drogba would mostly be, well, lost. That is because the lack of contact would deprive DD of his 2 biggest tricks. Number 1, pin the defender before running him over on your way to goal. Or 2, fall over for no reason and cry for a penalty. Don't lie, he did that a lot, didn't he? But when you took that away from him, let him have space, and just nicked it off him / got in front of him at the right time, again, Drogba, unless it was a cup final in which case everyone dies, was kept quiet far more often than you think. Reason why he didn't do all so well against players like Rio Ferdinand, who never really indulged in physical battles, getting only 4 goals in 21 games against United in his career. But of course, as you'd see time and time again going through this list, these facts and figures are usually overshadowed in the minds of players by the odd time Drogba barged them to the ground and ended their life, or scored a winner in a tense affair and ended their will to live. Just how it is, unfortunately. Only us fans who aren't traumatized by such events can look back and assess objectively. These guys need counseling. Number 6. Eden Hazard. So ever since his premature retirement at 32 years of age, there seems to be a bit of an over-romanticization of Eden Hazard's career. Most people seem to remember it like this. He was a fledgling sensation at Lille, dominated the Premier League for Chelsea, became a legend for Belgium, went to Real Madrid where it didn't work out, retired early with injuries. And this outlook is, I'd say, mostly correct. Which may be partly why a fair bit of the fluffy French-speaking former forwards' foes on the footy field have come forth with similar opinions, some labelling Hazard as the toughest opponent they've ever come up against. And when you consider his dribbling ability coupled with his close control and low centre of gravity, there's no doubt that he had the tools to ruin anyone's day on his day. But that's the thing, it had to be his day. Which it was a lot less often than people think. And yes, while most after hearing this will naturally cast their minds to his time at Real Madrid where he struggled with injuries and weight issues, what some may forget is 1. He disappeared for about half a season even during his prime in 15-16, and 2. Even during his prime seasons he would still struggle against defenders who'd set the tone against him early in games. If you want generic examples, you can honestly check out most of the big games during his Chelsea days, but here's a specific but pretty random one. Liverpool vs Chelsea in November 2014. The buzz around Eden was on his way to reaching fever pitch, and he came up against a far past it Glenn Johnson. And well, there's no other way to say it, but Jono had him chase shadows for a lot of the affair. The mind can really play tricks on you, can't it? Number 5. Olivier Giroud. Let me make this clear before we move forward. He may be overrated by a couple of opponents, but he is underrated by pretty much everyone else. Olivier Giroud has always been better than most give him credit for. In an era where the obsession with statistics has, according to at least one keen, overly handsome observer, ruined football, Giroud's performance at the 2018 World Cup was largely mocked as he failed to score, whereas in reality, he was no doubt one of the most integral parts of that side. Story of his career in some ways. but do those immense contributions really justify top-level European defenders like Mats Hummels, as well as possibly the best defender of his generation in Virgil van Dijk, to label Giroud as the toughest player they've ever played against? Big question. And while for Hummels it may have just been the case of Giroud being in top form and or him having days off in one-off games, for someone like VVD who did play somewhat regularly against Giroud, to stamp that label on him really does lift a lot of eyebrows. We can't say he's wrong, those are his experiences, but we can certainly give our opinions of the extent to which Giroud's record reflects such adulation, and in the take of this overly handsome keen observer, it falls just a tad short, to say the least. Number 4, Kyle Walker. So given what I said about opponents usually overrating players who go up against you more often than not, it shouldn't be a surprise that most of the players on this list spent most of their careers in the Premier League. Physical battles is a staple of the football we play in these shores, and it damn sure shouldn't even be the slightest of surprises that the players who've outlined Kyle Walker as the toughest they've ever played against are usually reliant on physical attributes such as pace. Guys like Marcus Rashford and Vinicius Jr., for whom their pace is their primary and, in Marcus's case, pretty much the only useful attribute, when going up against Walker, are as good as useless. Kyle is faster than the fastest player on your team. Kyle is as strong as the strongest player on your team. However, does his actual ability really warrant that sort of praise by world-class players such as Vinny and Mbappe? It certainly is debatable, but personally, when seeing players who are more dynamic cope with Kyle and do so pretty comfortably at times, like Neymar and most notably Nico Williams at the Euros, I'd say unless you're someone who only really possesses that one arrow in your quiver, Kyle Walker shouldn't really be the final boss of one-on-one battles like so many make him out to be. Not by players of that caliber anyway. Number 3, Ronaldo. So basically everyone worships this guy except me. Nostalgia merchants, youngers who weren't even alive during his peak, his former teammates, former opponents, and it literally is just too much. Like, yes, look, I get it, skills in that, sick, and yes, let's be honest, he was lethal too, but again, I've seen him play, and yeah, all this just simply does not add up. Things like even defenders like Maldini and Nesta, some of the game's greatest ever, speak of this man as if he was almost literally indestructible. Hell, even Zizou's bitch from Berlin, the Bellend who bowls it up for the Blues, he had bragged about R9 being better than, or... Wait, let me see if I got this right. He said R9 is Messi and Ronaldo combined. Thought you had butted your chest, mate, not your fucking brain. Because reality, Maldini and Nesta stopped him, and stopped him pretty regularly even in his prime. And it's... Nah man, there must be something I'm missing. Anyways, go and watch this. I'm gonna stop talking about this dude in overrated videos because, believe it or not, I'm actually a fan. I'm just not hypnotized like most people seem to be. Odd that. Number 2, Lionel Messi. More specifically, the latter-day Lionel Messi. Because you see, fact of the matter is, when he was younger, he was just that damn good. When he lost a smidge of his insane acceleration, however, his success rate in dribbling and final passes began to diminish. But you know what didn't? The appraisal he still received by opposing defenders. Because even in his latter years, you'd hear these youngers who were school age when Leo was in his prime, saying how he's impossible to stop, how you can't get near him, how he never gives the ball away. What are you talking about? Not only was Messi statistically right up there when it comes to giving the ball away on a consistent basis in his latter years, but you know, eyes. Because brother, if you were watching, you'd know that by the time he went to PSG, Leo, as far as dribbling, was exclusively restricted to get past 1, get past 2, lose it to the 3rd. So yes, that would inevitably keep his actual numbers high, but not only did it close to nothing in terms of benefiting his team, but more relevant to this video, he may still have been a magician, but now you can certainly get near him, and he was no doubt very much stoppable. But I guess the defenders that did stop him regularly, and at times pretty easily, just wanted to pay their respects to one of the game's all-time greats whom they most likely grew up idolizing. That's very honorable, but not exactly honest. And my friends, this may be a little hard to remember, but this was very much the story in the 2022 World Cup. Cause bar the Netherlands game where Leo just wasn't crazy form, in every other tie, when the tie was at 0-0 and the opposition could stick to their original game plan, Leo was contained, and contained in remarkably easy fashion. But as soon as the game opened up and he had the freedom of the pitch, it was from there on very much a different story. Now consider just in what fashion Argentina usually took the lead in that tournament. Makes you think, doesn't it? Number 1, Kevin Davis. As most Premier League defenders from the Barclays era, Kevin Davis is one of the first names out of their mouth when they're asked about their toughest opponents. Holding the record for most fouls committed in Premier League history, Kevin Davis was a relentlessly physical target man who tried to make the game as difficult as he possibly can for centre-backs by what we over here call getting up in your shit as much as he can. Elbows, toe steps, pinching, barging, no matter who you are, and that includes the greatest centre-back in Premier League history in Rio Ferdinand. If you are up against Kevin Davis, you'll be forced to work hard. But even then, remember, we in this video are studying the disparity between how the opponents speak about them and what their actual records suggest. And despite everything we just covered, Kevin Davis more often than not came out on the losing side of most of the games against top defenders. He spent the entirety of his career playing for lower to mid-tables team at best. He didn't have the best goal scoring ratio, though that is understandable given he wasn't an out-and-out goal scorer and was a mere one-cap wonder for England. So as difficult as he was, I'm sure when the outside factors are considered, Rio Ferdinand surely must have faced harder challenges elsewhere. R9 anyone? Henry anyone? How about Messi? How about Ronaldo? You sure you just forgot me? And is that. Agree or disagree? Beats indifference. So what do you think of this list? Are there any other players overrated by their opponents that I've missed out? Let me know in the comments below. And as usual, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Till next time, you keep rolling.